I gotta say, 2022 for me personally was a good year. Not great like it was last year. I mean, last year I had all sorts of changes going on in my life. I still did a lot of fun and entertaining stuff. I went to a few weddings, so that was a lot of great times. And hey, look, some really great movies came out this year. Also some pretty good music, with some of these being some of my favorite albums of the entire year. Thankfully, I had the good support of my friends and family keeping me going through yet another insane and crazy year that everyone just went through. I would know that it's still insane and crazy because a few weeks ago I was supposed to go to AEW Full Gear with my friends, and wouldn't you know it, I tested positive for COVID 3 days before the event happened. So I had to stay at home, and it was going to be literally at the Prudential Center, which is 40 to 45 minutes away from my house, and I could not go, and I was really upset about that. Yes, I still enjoy things, even as you can tell by the shirt, AEW, despite all the injuries and the questionable booking decisions, and a lot of the drama that I'm not going to get into because they're still a good wrestling company. You know, look at the way they do the wrestling and the flips and the blood and the hoopla. I even heard the WWE is getting better. Well, Vince McMahon retired, so who had that on their Wrestling 2022 bingo card? And that's why I felt like, for me this year, it was like completing a bunch of side quests while completely ignoring the main mission. What kept me going through this year, on top of being with people and just enjoying some of the sillier aspects of life, was of course the video games that came out. There were a shit ton of great video games that came out this year, and I want to talk about them just because I feel like talking about video games. There really isn't any sort of crazy explanation that I have. I just want to talk about some favorite games I played this year, because why not? It's my channel. Well, let's just talk about some of the favorite games that I went through, starting with a game that came out at the very beginning of this year, back in February, a game that was called Horizon Forbidden West.
Now, I've already reviewed this game earlier in the year, so if you want to check out that video I made about this game, you know the drill by now. Link is down below in the description. So I really don't have much else to say about it, except for a few things I want to touch up on since I put up this review. First of all, I'm glad that more people are finally starting to get into this game since, you know, it was cast aside for that other open world experience that I will also get into later. Some people were not too fond of the ending sequence, which I'm not going to spoil for those who haven't played the game yet, but I will say it's kind of understandable looking back on it. It really does feel a bit underwhelming with that final boss you encounter, but it does set up what looks like to be a thrilling conclusion for the next game that might come up. But you know, other than that, really still enjoyed this game. Ashley was great, the graphics still slap, fun gameplay even with a few boring side quests and dialogue, but hey, it's a minor nitpick. And although the game did get nominated for Game of the Year, I knew it was not going to win at all, but hey, sometimes again, just being nominated is the best honor you can have. So seriously, everyone stop stressing and arguing about award shows. They are really not that serious, and most of them are rigged anyways. Also, I am intrigued for the DLC coming out in April called Burning Shores, in where we are going to Hollywood, baby. While we are on the subject, I might as well talk about that other game that stole Horizon Forbidden West's thunder. The one that won the Game of the Year a few weeks ago. I started hearing rumors about this game from everyone when it first came out back in February. Like, literally I'm talking about people online, a few guys I know at work, even a homeless dude at my local CVS was raving about how this open world, RPG Dark Souls-esque game was literally the second coming of Jesus Christ. People were saying this game was a generational phenomenon and one of those games you had to play, otherwise everyone would call you a loser and tell you to go outside and do something productive with your life.
Dare you make me feel so insecure about myself?
It's something that was talked about so much where you almost had to buy into the hype. You almost had to ignore Flavor Flav on this one. A developer that gives fans exactly what they want out of a video game with zero microtransactions, an engaging storyline with beautiful art concept designs, a challenging series of boss battles that will test your wits and rage levels, and a sexy soundtrack to boot. It sounds almost too good to be true, but there it was, in the flesh, for all to see, completely nude. I'm just kidding about that last part, by the way. It was like when Fortnite came out a few years ago and everyone was going all goo goo gaga over that game, and yeah, I ended up really not liking it that much. So I decided, hey, why not give it a shot?
So with all the hype that came out that week, just completely pushing Horizon Forbidden West to the side, I decided to give this Elden Ring game a chance. You know, it's the game of the year, 10 out of 10, perfection in every way. And I sat down, I paid the $49.99 to play and download this game. I thought to myself, maybe it might be really great, and even if it's not, then hey, at least I'm doing something positive for charity in a way. I'm giving money to a game developer that, you know, actually cares about video games. So I sat down, and I tried this game, put a couple of good solid hours into it, and, so it's not to say that I dislike the game. Delete your comment. Delete your comment right now. I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're about to say. Delete the comment. Delete the comment right now. Let me explain my process. Okay, let me explain. It is actually a very great video game. I can understand entirely why people really enjoy Elden Ring. But when I tried it personally, it just wasn't my kind of game. Let me explain.
I want to take you guys back a few years ago, actually a little bit farther back to when I was in college. I once tried out this game called Bloodborne. My roommate was in love with this game and I really could not understand why. The game looked okay and had some cool combat, but I was never super into Dark Souls type of games or Skyrims or Lord of the Rings or any of that shit. Bunch of nerds out here playing with their magic and potions, all bunch of tryhards thinking they're cool and stuff. So I gave it a shot because I think it was a free game on PS Plus at the time, I don't honestly remember, and I wanted to see if that game was for me. It was not. I sort of get that same feeling when I played Elden Ring. The thing is, I can appreciate both of these kinds of games for what they are, more so for Elden Ring. It's something about this truly kind of open world map where you're truly allowed to explore and create your own type of story. How you truly have that freedom to do whatever you want in order to achieve that ultimate goal. Which in this case I guess is finding this ring or whatever, then you turn into a Gorkil or something like that. You can truly explore and create your own path, whereas with games like GTA or Red Dead Redemption 2, as great as those games are with their own narratives and storylines, sometimes in that game they sort of take that freedom away from you and it almost feels like you're kind of doing a chore almost. The missions based in those games are more of a linear, here's what you need to do in order to get past this part. Whereas with Elden Ring, you find stuff along the way and actually feel your character become more powerful. And that definitely feels a lot more rewarding than having a game basically treat you like a dumbass for not following the directions. Nakey Jakey made this great video about Red Dead Redemption 2, so I tried replaying Red Dead Redemption 2 on the PS5 and could not get past the first two missions. I mean, just the way that the game was paced and all that. And don't get me wrong, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a fantastic game, but I don't know, sometimes it's a little bit more of a drag when trying to get through some of the parts where I do want to get to other missions and try and replay the game, and it's just, I don't know, maybe a little bit too much realism where it's like, okay, yeah, great, but I kind of want to get back to shooting the bad guys in the face. I mean, I'm sorry, I thought video games were supposed to be fun and all that stuff. Anyways, trying to get back on topic here, I totally understand why people did enjoy Elden Ring so much. I might dive back into this game and give it another shot, hopefully knowing what to do for next time, because seriously, this game is almost completely unfair with how difficult it actually is. When did video games become so hard, by the way? And at least I can be proud of the fact that I tried out the game I wasn't so sure of. There is a lot of really fun stuff that is in Elden Ring that you can really appreciate. The character customization choices are great. It has interesting and unique bosses that you have to get through, which are also a pain in the ass, but again, people really love those challenges, so good for y'all. You get to decide the stats you want to level up and when to do it. You basically need to collect runes, which can be done by fighting bosses, enemies, and animals, as well as teaming up with other players to get the runes from the creatures that they defeat. Once gamers have enough runes to level up, they simply need to visit a site of grace and decide whether or not to level up their vigor, mind, endurance, strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith. It's just a really simple, almost kind of like slay the dragon sort of thing.
So while I can totally understand why Elden Ring won Game of the Year, and trust me, I am not mad about it at all that it defeated another particular game of mine that was probably my favorite of the year that I'll get into later on. Again, I can definitely see why people enjoyed Elden Ring, and I've got no problem with it being the game of the year because it is truly a once in a generation game. It's just, look, I mean, it just wasn't for me. And there's nothing too crazy about that. It's just my opinion, look, at least I tried a video game. See, that's the thing, is that a lot of people will just kind of look at a review and be like, oh, the game's garbage, blah, 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 okay, I'll just move on to the next thing. Sometimes, though, I feel like you have to actually try to play a video game before creating an opinion on it. The fact that I can enjoy a video game while at least trying it, that's probably my biggest accomplishment that I'm proud of. Although there are a few exceptions. August was, kind of a bad month for gaming, to be honest. I mean, Madden came out that month, and of course I tried that, and it just, if I want to be entertained by sports, I'll, actually watch sports, especially if you got a really good team to root for. Seriously, what the hell is going on with the Philadelphia Eagles? Like, good God almighty. I'm not trying to sound cocky when I say this, by the way, but I knew they were going to make the playoffs and be a good team. Like, a good, solid all-around team, but like, yo, this good? But yeah, it is what it is. Go Birds. Jalen Hurts for MVP. There was another game, though, that I felt like was actually kind of even more insulting than Madden. Because with Madden, I mean, it's a game that comes out every year, and so you kind of expect it to be kind of bad and not really be improved on as much. But this game that I'm talking about here had about, 6-7 years of development, of time to actually process an idea. It was still highly disappointing. I am, of course, referring to the disaster, the burning trash heap, known simply as Saints Row.
See, we need him for our startup. It's a criminal empire kind of...
You broke my heart, Saints Row. You broke my heart.
You want to talk about a disappointment. I remember renting Saints Row 2 from Blockbuster back when that was still a thing, and absolutely enjoying this GTA ripoff game about a group of men and women who weren't going to take it anymore, rebelling against the system and forming their own gang called the Second City Saints. It was a ton of fun with rival gangs trying to take you down, extremely fun activities like insurance fraud, Septic Avenger, Demolition Derby, and a fun and engaging cast of characters that made the game highly entertaining and got me into the Saints Row series. Then they dropped the trailer for the new Saints Row game coming out in 2022 and everyone hated it. And so that's when I thought to myself, oh come on guys, it seriously can't be that bad, right? I mean, things did kind of start going downhill for the series after Saints Row 3, but I figured maybe people were just over-exaggerating how bad it actually was. So I sat down to play it and oh boy how naive I was. To put it in a more simplistic perspective, it's simply a bunch of Gen Z assholes who are struggling to pay rent or whatever, and so they end up forming their own gang called the Second City Saints. Real creative there, guys. A lot of these missions are really boring and repetitive, and classic modes like insurance fraud end up becoming another mindless task you can choose to do in case you want to level up your character. The customization is pretty well done, but that's one of the only few bright spots of this game. It takes place not in a grand city or anything like that, but a goddamn desert. Driving around this wasteland of a place had me thinking maybe there would be some secret underground layer full of wacky aliens or something like that. But nope, just a bunch of sand everywhere, with a whole void of emptiness given by its characters, art design, mission structure, just everything is just a complete hot mess. Who was this game even designed for? Seriously, all these missions ended up being was shoot a bunch of guys in the face and escort someone to another location for 20 hours. I did not even finish this game, that's how bad it was. But again, I know some of my subscribers are really into the Saints Row series, so if you do enjoy this game, then hey, that's good for you, you know, more power to you. I'm glad you enjoy this game. I'm just saying that I wasn't really too fond of it. It's not just me saying this, by the way. A lot of people are saying kind of the same thing about this not so great video game.
But enough with the bad, okay? Let's get on to some more of the good games. I've always said support indie gaming, and there have been actually 2 really solid indie games that came out this year that actually got a bit of mainstream attention. One of the first games that I'm referring to is, of course, this little game known as Sifu, or Saifu, or whatever, however the hell you're supposed to say it.
In where you play as this man or woman whose father is killed by his own apprentice, and you grow up and plot this whole revenge scheme against him and will go through literally anyone you have to in order to get to him. What makes this fighting game so unique is that each time you die, your age increases and you start to lose some of those abilities you had when you were younger. It's basically a battle against time, and oh yeah, the combat is super difficult to learn, but extremely rewarding and fun once you get the hang of it. Thank God they put in easy mode for this game. Kung Fu has always been a cult-like phenomenon, and this game brings out the spirit of that in a fantasy type of world full of crazy combat and settings that will constantly keep your guard up. And trust me, you're gonna have to learn some quick reflexes for all this stuff that comes your way. I mean, sometimes I definitely don't mind a challenge with video games, as it makes playing a video game worth it. It gives you that motivation to keep trying even when you constantly fail.
It's fun. And that's all I kind of want out of video games, you know? Sometimes I just want to have a little bit of fun with it. I even got to go ahead and play some video games that came out in 2021 that I did not get a chance to play to last year. 2 of those games actually being Deathloop and Returnal. Both those games are actually similar in a way, because in both of these games I have no idea what the hell is going on, but the gameplay is so much fun that it's like, I don't really care about the story that much, to be honest. I just kind of want to shoot somebody in the face.
Deathloop is a first-person shooter about 2 rival assassins stuck in this time loop together, named Colt and Juliana. Juliana is constantly trying to kill you and keep you in this loop, while you, as Colt, are trying everything in your power to break the loop and escape this nightmare. In this game, you die and come back to life quite a bit, hence the name, Deathloop. You find clues and go to each location to figure out the next steps, and much like in Sifu, your objective is to kill all these other assassins before facing the final boss herself. While some of these games do have a similar concept, sometimes the way they go about telling their stories can be done in a unique sort of way. See, video games are a lot like Skittles, in that each game has its own flavor and there are going to be some you prefer to another. It's kind of like in the game Returnal. It's one of these constant sort of dying games where you have to go back to the start. Your spaceship crashes and you're basically playing as the Wish version of Hillary Clinton or someone like that. And you have to try and get off this planet, but each time you die, you get a flashback to this person's point in her life. And you have to try and break this cycle while also discovering where exactly the hell you are. I do get that this game is meant to be played in one sitting, but like, I really just don't have time for all that. Even as much as I love video games, I do need a break from them, otherwise I feel like I'm being too lazy and fat and will turn into a blob. Still getting into Returnal, so wish me luck on that one.
But sometimes it's nice to go a little retro, a little old school, while also incorporating this new sort of wacky and innovative idea to gaming. A little indie game that is a good example of this is with this game known as Rollerdrome.
In Rollerdrome, you play as Kara Hassan, who is a participant in a deadly sport that is broadcast worldwide for all to see. Your objective is to survive on roller skates while a bunch of psychotic robots try to kill you. It all takes place in 2030, and based on how our society is shaping up nowadays, I would not put this idea out of the question for someone to try it. It's got this late 70s, early 80s vibe that's produced by the developers. For me, it reflects on people back in the 80s who thought what the future was going to be like, so they made up this crazy nonsense, which is kinda ridiculous in theory, but hey, people all around the world love stupid entertainment. The gameplay has all sorts of different objectives, such as kill this amount of a particular robot within the time limit, or collect this sort of object during your untimed run, all while trying not to die. You get to do some gnarly tricks while shooting a guy upside down with a shotgun, so that's pretty badass. Obviously, this game is a nod to the classic Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, while also having a slow motion like effect you can do like in the old Max Payne games as well. It's these creative indie titles that further shows that AAA style games are not the only sort of option out there. Not trying to dig on AAA titles, but indie games do definitely deserve their flowers when done right and executed like they were in 2022.
Another game that I actually really kind of enjoyed this year that I actually got done playing, I know some people are going to think, oh, it's kind of boring a little bit, but I thought it had a cool little supernatural sort of feel. That game is called Ghostwire Tokyo.
It's a first-person open-world supernatural game where the entire country of Japan is taken over by these ghost-like creatures, probably because of an experiment gone wrong. And you play as Akita, a normal boy who was visiting his sister in the hospital when he crashed his motorcycle, and had his spirit taken over by a man simply known as KK. KK and his loyal gang are attempting to stop Hanya, an evil man in a mask who has supernatural powers and wants to, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course!
KK and Akita work together not only to save his sister, but also help KK find out what is happening and restore the world to its natural form. There are people out there who say this game is kind of boring, and to be fair, you do come across some boring parts, but overall I am kind of digging it. Nothing groundbreaking or revolutionary for me to say other than I like it. It's got some really scary stuff in it, so I'm kind of venturing out a little teeny tiny bit, just kind of dipping my toe a little bit into horror games, so yeah, some creepy and really scary stuff in this game, and I also tend to have a little bit of anxiety, so that kind of keeps me on edge, which I guess is kind of a good thing. Keeps me more invested into the video game, if you know what I mean.
It's got like these weird Far Cry elements to it as well. It's kind of interesting. It would have been a little bit more fun if it was like one of those infamous games where you got to like teleport throughout all the different buildings and have it be like a first person virtual reality sort of thing. But I think that's maybe being a little too creative with video games. So yeah, as you can tell, there were some pretty solid games, and of course I did not get a chance to play every single video game, so if I don't mention a particular video game that you enjoyed that you played this year, I'm sorry, I just never got a chance to play it, okay? I'm kind of busy with work and life and whatever. There is one game though. You knew this was coming. It's this little AAA title called God of War Ragnarok. It's alright. It's only probably my favorite game of 2022, and quite possibly might even just be one of my favorite video games of all time. It was, the culmination of the story of the badass warrior Kratos and his son Atreus, and them going through Norse mythology, trying to stop Ragnarok, and it was just, it was absolutely phenomenal. I don't really even have a joke for this. It was hype. It was hype. I was so hyped about this game that I even bought the limited edition God of War Ragnarok controller because I'm still kind of a nerd. I just like the design of this controller, okay? More PS5 needs to include more stuff like this, alright? And also bring back the themes, okay? After playing something as phenomenal and beautiful as God of War Ragnarok, a game that truly did touch me in my feels and in my heart a little bit, it's just kind of tough to kind of top that in a way. And no, it did not win Game of the Year at the Video Game Awards, which again is not really that big of a deal, guys. Seriously, it's really not. Shout out to Bill Clinton, though, by the way. If you know, you know. But look, it's my favorite game of 2022. It's the culmination of just everything great about Kratos and that whole story. It was him, whatever that means nowadays.
The idea alone of turning one of PlayStation's most iconic and badass characters into an old, thoughtful, and caring father is a pretty bold decision, but one that I believe is executed flawlessly. Continuing off the success of the also really amazing God of War 2018, which is still confusing to me, by the way. I mean, why can't you just call it God of War 4, alright? There's already a God of War that came out in 2005, and then another one that came out in 2018, alright? It doesn't make it new, okay? It just makes it confusing, Sony. Anyway, the 2018 version of this game was a whole new adventure about Kratos and his new son Atreus, and their journey to spread phase ashes across the highest peak in all of the 9 realms. Going from the crazy and wild Greek mythology to the calmer but also dangerous Norse mythology world was quite a change for myself and a lot of gamers, but one that we welcomed with open arms, mainly because we were looking forward to see Kratos in action again. The first title was mainly about trying to let go of one's past and embrace a new life with a son who wants to know more about the world he lives in and quite literally puts both himself and Kratos in danger at times in order to find out what's out there. It's a tale of one militant and strict father who, while still becoming a very loving father, still struggles with the memories of his past, and becomes more distant with his son, who also wants to love his father and be closer to him ever since his own mother died. Kratos wasn't really sure how to open up, and Atreus showed him how to love, how to be open, how to open his heart instead of keeping his heart closed to it. It was one of the best experiences that I got to enjoy the second time around I played it. I just wasn't used to this stone cold character being so down to earth with his son before. It showed a lot more human aspect to Kratos that we've never seen before. Everything about God of War 2018 was nearly perfect. And then God of War Ragnarok was announced and I nearly lost my shit hearing Atreus' voice deepen for the first time. Our boy had grown into a man. And they took basically everything that made God of War 2018 great and somehow made it even better with this game. From the combat, to the writing, the design, the storytelling, it's all just so incredible to witness. And during the time that I got stuck in my house with the vid, I got to fully enjoy this game and all the side quests and realms it offered. The opening sequence of this game alone immediately draws you in and keeps you there until that final battle with a main villain who I will not spoil since yeah, if you haven't played this game, honestly, what's wrong with you? The performances are just also amazing. You know what, forget giving Christopher Judge an award for best performance at the Video Game Awards, give this guy a f***ing Oscar. Cause man, he was good in that game. Just don't let him do a speech afterwards because he will go on, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on.
I think he was trying to give away a few extra Steam Decks as well. All right, it's time to get the announcements rolling here at the game.
And it wasn't just him that was great. Everyone in that game had a very stellar performance. Even Sonny as Atreus, who I thought stole the show at times, even though the character Atreus was kind of annoying to deal with in the middle part. It continues with Odin, Thor, Freya, Mimir, Brock, Sindri, and so many others who made this game so enjoyable. If you have already played this masterpiece of a game, you already know how great it is, but for those of you who haven't been able to enjoy God of War fully, go buy the original trilogy, buy God of War 2018, don't buy Chains of Olympus or Ascension, they're just kind of side things and they're not really that important. And just enjoy the experience for yourself. I've always loved God of War ever since I first got the game back in middle school, so yeah, this series means a lot to me. One of my most popular videos on this channel is a God of War funny moments montage, so it's all really kind of full circle. I wish I could describe it a little better, but honestly, so many people have already described it as well that my own 2 cents probably won't mean that much. All I can say is that I'm just so proud of the growth that Kratos has done throughout this whole series. And the way he's gone from this very tragic Greek character to this super loving, super down to earth, and he even opened up a little bit with humor in God of War Ragnarok, which he never did that in the old games, which I mean, it's just phenomenal. He's just a great father. But yeah, this game is just great, and all I could say after finishing it was, well,
God damn. Stop! Stupid chime! Oh dear. I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from.
But yeah, those were some of my favorite video games of 2022. You could definitely leave a comment down below if you want to talk about some of your favorite games of 2022. I would definitely love to hear about it. And we've got a whole list of video games that are coming out for 2023. We've got the AEW video game coming out in February, which kind of low expectations to be honest, but you know what? I mean, it should still be a lot of dumb, silly fun. Sure, the Deadlock boys will make fun of it. Look at this whole list of video games that we got coming out in 2023. Just listen to this list, okay? Wild Hearts, Hogwarts Legacy, I'm really looking forward to that. Final Fantasy 16, I think. They've made so many Final Fantasy games. Legend of Zelda, Diablo 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I remember playing the Star Wars Fallen Order video game and I actually really enjoyed it. It gave me that Uncharted sort of feel. So yeah, even EA can actually make some pretty solid single player video games. Resident Evil 4, Dead Island 2, Forspoken, One Piece Odyssey, Skull and Bones, Blood Brawl, Dead Space, Sons of the Forest. We even got goddamn motherfucking Spider-Man 2 coming out in the fall. Peter Parker and Miles Morales, oh, chef's kiss. But, yeah. Video games were great this year, and they kept my sense of sanity with everything going on. So, yeah, just keep staying safe out there, do what makes you happy, do what you love. I don't know what else to say, other than, I guess I'll see you later.